Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Fluent in Moments. I'm Lena, and if you're new here, this is the place where we turn English from a subject you study into a skill you actually use. Here we focus on English speaking practice. You can apply in real life, whether you're at the coffee shop, in the office, meeting new people at an event, or just chatting with your neighbor in the hallway. Now, let me start with a question. Have you ever spent months, maybe even years, studying English, only to freeze up the moment someone talks to you in real life? You know that moment, your heart speeds up, your brain feels empty, and even though you know you've learned enough words, nothing seems to come out of your mouth. Or maybe you've had the opposite problem. You can read and understand every single word in a textbook, but when your barista asks you a simple question like, "How's your day going?" your mind just goes blank. If that's happened to you, you are not alone. In fact, I would say you're in very good company because I've met thousands of learners from all over the world who've experienced the same thing. And the good news, we're going to fix that. Today, before we dive in, I want to welcome you properly. If you've been following Fluent in Moments for a while, you know that we do things differently here. We're not about memorizing endless grammar rules or giant vocabulary lists that you'll forget in a week. We're about listening practice that connects directly to speaking practice so you learn the way people actually talk, not just the way it's written in textbooks. If you're new here, this is what you can expect. Real conversations not scripted in an unnatural way. Practical phrases you can use the same day you learn them. Tips for building confidence so you actually want to speak. And exercises that fit into your everyday routine. So English becomes a natural part of your life, not a stressful homework task. Now I want you to imagine something. Imagine you walk into a coffee shop tomorrow morning. The smell of fresh coffee fills the air. There's a gentle hum of people chatting, and the barista looks at you with a smile and says, "Hey there, what can I get started for you?" In that moment, what happens? Do you respond smoothly with clear, natural English? Or do you feel a little panic because you're translating in your head, trying to remember the correct grammar and hoping you don't sound silly? That moment right there is what this entire episode is about. Because here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect to speak confidently. You don't need to know every single English word. What you do need is a small set of tools, phrases, strategies, and habits that you can use in almost any situation. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you today. Think of this as your personal guide to English you can actually use. We're going to cover entente, how to start a conversation naturally without feeling awkward, how to keep that conversation going so you never get stuck in the dreaded dead silence, how to end a conversation politely so you leave a good impression every single time, how to build daily habits for speaking and listening, even if you live in a place where nobody speaks English. And finally, I'll give you a complete sample conversation you can copy, practice, and use in real life. And here's the best part. You won't need to move to another country or spend thousands on expensive classes or study for hours every single day. You'll learn how to make progress in short, focused moments, moments you already have in your day. Before we get into the tips, I want to tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I was coaching a student named Maria. Maria was from Brazil, and she had been studying English for more than 6 years. She could pass grammar tests with almost perfect scores. She knew hundreds of words. But whenever she tried to speak to a native English speaker, she froze. Her mind went blank. She told me, "It's like I forget everything the moment I open my mouth." We made one simple change to her learning routine. We stopped focusing only on grammar books and started doing short daily listening and speaking exercises, things she could practice while walking to work, waiting for the bus, or even making breakfast. She learned to shadow short phrases she heard, repeat them out loud, and then adapt them to her own conversations. In just 8 weeks, Maria went from avoiding conversations in English to chatting confidently with tourists in her city. She told me I didn't learn more English. I learned to use the English I already had. That's the power of English speaking practice combined with real world listening. So, my challenge to you today is this: don't just listen to this episode. Take at least one tip from what I'm about to share and use it in the next 24 hours. Even if it's just saying hello to a stranger or asking your coworker how their weekend was, every little moment counts. All right, I think you're ready. So grab your coffee, put your phone on silent, and stay with me until the end. Because every single tip today builds on the previous one. And if you miss even one part, you might miss the flow that makes this method so powerful. Let's start by talking about why listening and speaking skills matter so much, not just for learning English, but for building confidence, creating opportunities, and connecting with people on a deeper level. If you're ready, let's dive into part two. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I understand English in my head but struggle to use it out loud? The answer often comes down to two skills: listening and speaking. Think about it. These are the skills you use most in real life. When you're at work, you're not sitting an exam. You're talking to colleagues, listening to instructions, replying to questions. When you're traveling, you're not filling in grammar exercises. You're asking for directions, ordering food, listening to the waiter's reply. The truth is, most people learn English backwards. They spend years focusing on reading and writing, while listening practice and speaking practice take a back seat. So when it's time for a real conversation, their brain is like a high-performance car, but it's never been driven on the road. Let me give you an example. I once worked with a student named Ahmed. He could write beautiful essays in English better than some native speakers. But when he came to the UK for the first time, he told me he couldn't understand a single thing people said to him. Not because he didn't know the words, but because he had never trained his ear to hear them in natural speech. See, here's something many learners don't realize. The English you hear in movies on the street or at the coffee shop is often much faster, less formal, and more connected than the English in textbooks. Words link together, sounds disappear, slang appears. For example, what are you going to do becomes what you're gonna do. If your listening hasn't been trained for these patterns, your brain panics, and by the time you've processed what you heard, the conversation has already moved on. This is why listening matters so much. It's the input that trains your brain to recognize real English in real time. Without it, speaking becomes harder because you're always playing catch-up in your mind. Now let's talk about speaking. Speaking is more than just knowing the right words. It's about being able to respond quickly and naturally. When you speak regularly, even for just a few minutes a day, you train your mouth, your tongue, your voice to produce English without overthinking. It's like learning a sport. You can read about how to throw a ball, but until you actually throw it again and again, your body won't learn the movement. Here's a quick story. One of my listeners, Hannah from Vietnam, was terrified of speaking English. She told me I always translate from Vietnamese first, and it's so slow. By the time I'm ready to speak, the conversation has moved on. We started with just 2 minutes of speaking practice each day. No long lessons, no complicated grammar. I gave her short phrases from real conversations, things like, "That sounds interesting," or "I've never tried that before." She would repeat them out loud, then change one or two words to make them her own. "That sounds delicious. I've never seen that before." In just a month, she messaged me saying, "I had a 10-minute conversation with a tourist today. I didn't translate in my head, I just spoke." That's the power of daily speaking practice. It builds automatic responses, it gives you confidence, and it makes conversations feel like a natural flow instead of a stressful test. Listening and speaking work best when they're trained together, when you hear real English daily, not just slow school English. You start to notice how people connect words, which phrases they use over and over, and how they respond in different situations. And when you practice speaking those same patterns, you're not just memorizing, you're preparing your brain and your mouth to use them instantly. Here's how I like to explain it. Listening is like filling up your fridge with fresh ingredients. Speaking is like cooking with those ingredients. If you only listen, you have a fridge full of food but never cook. If you only speak without listening, you're trying to cook with no ingredients. When you combine the two, you can prepare a delicious meal, or in this case, a natural, confident conversation. So, why are these two skills so important? Because real life English is a two-way street. You listen, you respond. You understand, you share. When you get better at listening, you feel less nervous because you actually know what the other person said. When you get better at speaking, you feel proud because you can share your thoughts without freezing. And there's one more reason: opportunities. When your listening and speaking improve, you open doors. Better jobs, more connections, friendships across cultures. Even simple things like making small talk with a neighbor become chances to connect. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. That sounds great, but I don't live in an English-speaking country. How can I improve my listening and speaking? Here's the secret. You don't need to live abroad to train these skills. You just need the right approach. Podcasts like this one, short videos with real conversation. Songs, interviews, movies, but not just watching or listening. Actively repeating, pausing, mimicking the rhythm and intonation, and then using those same patterns in your own life. Even if it's just talking to yourself in the mirror or describing what you're doing as you cook dinner, you're building the speaking muscle. And when you combine that with listening to real English every single day, the results will surprise you. So here's your first small challenge of the day. After this episode, find one short piece of real English, maybe a 1 to 2 minute clip from a podcast or a short scene from a movie. Listen to it 3 times. The first time, just to get the general idea. The second time, pause after each sentence and repeat it out loud. The third time, try to say the line with the speaker matching their speed. That's not just listening. That's listening combined with speaking practice, and that's where the magic happens. In the next part of this episode, we're going to take this foundation and talk about how to use it to start a conversation naturally so you don't feel awkward, and you can turn a simple hello into a real exchange. So grab your notebook because part 3 is where you'll start building those real-world conversation skills. Let's be honest, for many English learners, the hardest part of speaking isn't the grammar or the vocabulary. It's starting the conversation in the first place. You know that moment. You see someone you'd like to talk to. Maybe they're sitting next to you at a coffee shop, standing in line at the supermarket, or sitting across from you in a workshop or conference. You want to say something, but then your brain says, "What should I say? What if I sound weird? What if they don't answer? What if I make a mistake?" And before you know it, the moment is gone, and so is your chance to practice speaking English. First, I want to tell you a secret. Most conversations don't start with something deep, clever, or perfect. They start small: a comment, a question, something light and simple that opens the door. Think about how you start conversations in your own language. You don't always begin with a big, important topic. You might comment on the weather. You might ask about something you both see. You might even just say hi with a smile. The same principle works in English. Here's the good news. You don't need a long speech to get someone talking. You just need a hook, a small natural reason to start speaking. And the easiest place to find that is in your shared situation. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're at a coffee shop. The person next to you has a book you've read before. That's your shared situation. You're both in the same place, and you've both seen that book. You could say, "I read that book last year. How are you liking it so far?" It's simple, it's friendly, and it invites the other person to share something about themselves. Here's another one. You're at a conference and just finished listening to a speaker. You could turn to the person next to you and say, "I like that last talk. What did you think?" You're not starting a debate. You're not giving a presentation. You're just opening the door. Now let's talk about open-ended questions. These are questions that can't be answered with just yes or no. They encourage the other person to give you more information, and that gives you more to work with in the conversation. If you see someone with an interesting drink, instead of asking, "Is that coffee?" they could just say, "Yes, try. That looks good. What is it?" If you're in a new city, instead of asking, "Is there food around here?" try, "Do you know any good places to eat nearby?" Open-ended questions are powerful because they give people space to respond, and once they do, you can respond to their response, which keeps the conversation moving. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That's all great, but what if I make a mistake when I start talking? Let me tell you something important. Native speakers don't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to be human. And humans make small mistakes all the time, even in their own language. What they do notice is your friendliness, your interest, and your effort. If you smile and speak with genuine interest, most people will respond positively, even if your grammar isn't perfect. Another great way to start a conversation is with a compliment. Now, the key here is to keep it genuine and appropriate. If you notice something you honestly like, maybe their jacket, their watch, their hairstyle, or the book they're reading, say so. "I like your jacket, the color really stands out. That's a great watch, I've never seen one like it. I love that book, how far into it are you?" Compliments break the ice because they make people feel good. And when people feel good, they're more open to conversation. But let's address the other challenge: nerves. Even if you know what to say, sometimes your heart beats faster, your mouth goes dry, and your brain says, "Run away." Here's what I recommend. Practice your first line before you need it. Think of a few safe, simple conversation starters for common situations in your life. If you go to a coffee shop, often have a few ready. "It's busy here today, isn't it? Have you tried the new drink on the menu?" If you take the bus to work, "The bus is running late again today. I like your bag. Where did you get it?" If you have these in your pocket, you won't have to invent something. In the moment, you'll just pick one and say it. Now I want to tell you about a student named Paulo. Paulo moved from Brazil to Canada for work. His biggest fear: starting conversations with strangers. He told me, "I just don't know how to begin. Once I start, I'm okay, but starting is the hardest." We made a simple plan. For 1 week, every day, Paulo had to start one conversation with someone new, even if it was just the cashier at the supermarket. He wrote down a list of safe openers, practiced them out loud, and then used them in real life. At first, he was nervous, but after a few days, something interesting happened. He realized that most people responded positively. Some even seemed happy that he'd started talking to them. By the end of the week, Paulo told me, "It's not as scary anymore. People want to connect." And that's the point. Starting conversations is like opening a small door. You don't have to push it wide open right away. You just give it a gentle nudge and see if the other person walks through. So here's your challenge for today. Before you go to bed tonight, write down 3 possible conversation starters you could use tomorrow. They don't need to be perfect. They just need to be real. For example, comment on something you both see. "That's a nice laptop, is it new?" Ask about the environment. "Do you know how long this usually takes?" Give a light compliment. "I like your shoes, they look comfortable." Tomorrow, pick one and use it. Don't overthink. Smile, say your line, and see what happens. In the next part of this episode, we're going to take this one step further, because starting a conversation is just the beginning, and I'll show you exactly how to keep it going naturally so you don't get stuck in awkward silence. So, you've done it. You've started the conversation. You've said your first line. The other person has responded. And now, you feel the pressure. What do I say next? How do I make sure this doesn't turn into awkward silence? If you've ever had a conversation that just died after the first exchange, you know how uncomfortable that can be. And sometimes it's not because you don't want to talk, It's because you're not sure how to keep it alive. The good news is, keeping a conversation going is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned and practiced. Let's start with a simple truth. A good conversation is like a game of catch. One person throws the ball, the other catches it and then throws it back. If one person holds onto the ball for too long or never throws it back, the game ends quickly. In conversation, that throwing the ball means asking follow-up questions, sharing something about yourself, and showing genuine interest in what the other person says. Here's the first strategy. Ask follow-up questions that invite more detail. Let's say you've just asked someone, have you tried the new cafe down the street? And they say, yes, I went there last week. You could just say, oh, that's nice, but that would drop the ball. Instead, follow up. Really? What did you think of it? Or even better, what's good there? I've been thinking of trying it. Now they have something to work with. They can share their opinion, recommend something, and you can respond to that. Another example, if someone says, I went hiking last weekend, instead of just saying cool, ask, where did you go? Was the weather good? How long was the hike? Each of these invites a longer answer, and each answer gives you more material to work with. The second strategy, share something about yourself that relates to their answer. Conversations aren't interviews. If you just keep asking questions without sharing, it can feel like an interrogation. The other person might start to wonder why you're not sharing anything about yourself. So when they answer your question, look for a connection to your own experiences. For example, if they say, I went hiking last weekend, you might say, that sounds great. I love hiking too. I went to the mountains last year and it was amazing. Now you've given them something they can respond to. They might ask you about your trip and the conversation flows naturally. The third strategy, use active listening signals. When you're listening, show it with your face, your voice, and your short reactions. Little things like, oh, wow, that's interesting. No way, really. These don't just fill the silence, they show the other person that you're engaged. It encourages them to keep talking. Think about how you feel when you're telling a story and the other person is looking at their phone or just nodding without expression. It's discouraging, right? Now compare that to someone leaning in, slightly smiling, reacting to your words. You feel heard and you naturally want to keep sharing. The fourth strategy, look for branches in what they say. In conversation, a branch is any small detail you can explore further. For example, if someone says, I went to Paris last year for a conference, there are at least 3 branches here. Paris, you could ask, was it your first time in Paris? Or what did you see while you were there? Conference, you could ask, what was the conference about? Or did you meet interesting people? Last year, you could ask, was it during the summer? Or did you travel anywhere else on that trip? Every detail is an opportunity to ask something new or share something of your own. If you train yourself to listen for these branches, you'll never run out of things to say. The fifth strategy, be comfortable with short pauses. This might sound strange, but silence isn't always bad. In fact, short pauses can give the conversation room to breathe. Sometimes the other person is just thinking about what to say next. If you jump in too quickly to fill the silence, you might interrupt their thought. So if there's a small pause, just smile, maintain eye contact, and see if they continue. If not, that's your cue to ask the next question or share a new thought. Now I know some of you are thinking, but what if I completely run out of things to say? That's where topic switching comes in. If you've fully explored one topic and it's fading, gently shift to something related, or even something new. For example, if you were talking about coffee and the cafe conversation is slowing down, you might say, speaking of drinks, have you ever tried bubble tea? The speaking of trick is a great way to change topics naturally without making it feel random. I want to tell you about my student May from Taiwan. When she first started practicing English, she could start conversations easily. But she told me after a minute or two, my mind is empty. I don't know how to continue. We practiced listening for branches and having a small mental list of safe topics to switch to things like food travel hobbies, movies, music. That way, if one topic ended, she could smoothly move to another. After a month of practice, she told me she had a 20-minute conversation with a coworker at lunch without any awkward silences. Her secret. She wasn't afraid to follow the conversation wherever it went, and she had a few backup topics ready. Remember, a great conversation isn't about speaking perfectly. It's about connection. It's about showing that you care about the other person's words and adding your own experiences to the mix. So here's your challenge for today. The next time you talk to someone in English, focus on these 3 actions. Ask one follow-up question. Share one related personal detail. React actively at least 3 times during the conversation. If you do just those 3 things, you'll notice your conversations last longer, feel more natural, and become more enjoyable for both you and the other person. In the next part, we'll cover something just as important: how to end a conversation politely, because sometimes the hardest part isn't starting or continuing. It's knowing how to wrap things up without it feeling awkward or rude. We've talked about starting conversations. We've talked about keeping them going. But there's one part of the conversation journey that many learners and even native speakers find tricky: ending the conversation politely. Why is this important? Because how you leave a conversation often decides how the other person remembers it and how they remember you. If you leave suddenly without warning, you might seem rude. If you keep talking long after the other person is ready to go, you might seem pushy. But if you end the conversation with warmth and clarity, you leave the other person thinking, "That was nice. I'd be happy to talk to them again." Let's start with the truth. It's perfectly okay to end a conversation before it naturally dies. Sometimes you have to go somewhere. Sometimes you're simply ready to move on. Ending politely doesn't mean ending late, it means ending well. 1. Give a reason, real or general. One of the easiest ways to end a conversation smoothly is to give a reason for leaving. It doesn't have to be super specific. You could say, "I should get going. I have a few things to finish before lunch. I better let you go. I know you're busy. I need to head out now, but it was great talking with you." Notice how these are light and neutral. You're not telling your life story, you're simply signaling that it's time to wrap up. 2. Recap something positive from the conversation. Before you leave, it's nice to mention something you enjoyed. It reminds the other person of the good part of your exchange. For example, "It was great hearing about your trip now. I really want to visit Spain. I'm glad we talked about that cafe. I'll definitely try it this weekend." This shows you were listening and that the conversation had value. 3. Suggest the possibility of another meeting. If you enjoyed talking and want to leave the door open for future conversations, you can say, "Let's catch up again sometime. Hope we can talk more soon. Maybe we can grab coffee next week." Even if you don't set a specific time, this leaves the other person with a positive expectation. 4. Use polite closers. These are short, friendly phrases that signal the end. You've probably heard some of these. "Take care. See you later. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day." They're quick, they're friendly, and they work in almost any situation. 5. The 2-step ending. Here's my favorite technique. Step 1. Give your reason for leaving. Step 2. Add a closer. Example, "I should get going. I've got a meeting in a few minutes. Anyway, it was great talking to you. Take care. I'll let you get back to your work. Hope you have a great afternoon." It feels natural, friendly, and complete. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What if the other person doesn't let you leave? Some people just love to keep talking. In this case, you need to be polite but firm. Repeat your reason for leaving, add your closer, and then physically start to leave, stand up, step back, or turn slightly away. Body language helps send the message without being rude. For example, I really do have to run. Now let's talk more next time. See you! I want to share a quick story. One of my students, Layla from Egypt, used to feel awkward ending conversations. She said, I don't know how to stop talking without sounding like I'm rejecting the person. We practiced a few polite endings and she learned to combine them with positive body language, a smile, a small wave, and turning to leave. After a week, she told me it's much easier now. People still smile when I say goodbye. That's the point. Ending a conversation politely leaves the door open for the next one. Your challenge for today: the next time you finish a conversation in English, try this formula. It's off. Give a short reason for leaving. Mention something positive from the talk. Use a friendly closer. For example, I'd better head out. I have to catch the bus. Anyway, it was really interesting hearing about your trip. Have a great evening. And now, speaking of ending conversations, I want to end this part with a conversation between you and me. If you've been enjoying this episode and learning something new, I'd love for you to support the channel so I can keep making content for you. Here's what you can do right now. Subscribe to Fluent in Moments on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Like this video. If it's been helpful, it really helps other learners find it. Comment below and tell me which ending phrase you're going to try this week. When you subscribe, you're not just getting videos, you're joining a community of learners who are improving their English speaking practice together. And when you like and comment, you're helping me reach more people who need these tips. In the next part of this episode, we're going to switch gears and talk about daily practice strategies because starting, keeping, and ending conversations is great. But without consistent practice, it's easy to lose progress. I'll show you simple, effective habits you can fit into your day, even if you're busy and have no one to talk to in English right now. We've covered how to start a conversation, how to keep it going, and how to end it politely. Now it's time to talk about something that will make all of those skills easier. Daily practice. Because here's the truth. You can learn every tip, every phrase, every trick in the world. But if you don't practice, your brain won't remember them when you need them. Think of English like a muscle. If you don't use it, it gets weaker. If you use it every day, even just a little, it gets stronger and it becomes easier to use without thinking. 1. The tiny habits approach. A lot of learners make the mistake of thinking they need hours every day to improve. And when they can't find those hours, they give up completely. But here's a better approach: tiny, consistent habits. Instead of saying, I'll study English for 2 hours every evening, and then failing after 3 days, commit to just 5 minutes a day. Yes, just 5. 5 minutes to listen to a podcast. 5 minutes to repeat phrases out loud. 5 minutes to read something in English. Because here's the secret. Once you start, you'll often go beyond those 5 minutes. But even if you don't, you've still done something, and that something keeps the habit alive. 2. Pair practice with your daily routines. The easiest way to make English practice a habit is to connect it to something you already do every day. For example, listen to a short English podcast while you make breakfast. Repeat English phrases while brushing your teeth. Read a short news article in English before bed. When you tie English practice to an existing habit, it becomes automatic, just part of your day, like putting on your shoes. 3. The listen and repeat method. This is one of my personal favorites for improving both listening and speaking at the same time. Here's how it works. Find a short piece of real English audio, maybe 20-60 seconds long. It can be from a movie, a podcast, or even a YouTube video. Step 1. Listen without reading anything. Just focus on the sounds. Step 2. Listen again and pause after each sentence, repeating exactly what you hear. Step 3. Play it again and try to speak with the speaker, matching their speed and rhythm. This trains your ear to hear natural English and your mouth to produce it quickly and confidently. 4. Speak to yourself out loud. I know it might feel a little strange at first, But talking to yourself in English is one of the most effective ways to build fluency, especially if you don't have a speaking partner. You can describe what you're doing. I'm making coffee now. I need to find my keys. You can imagine conversations and play both parts. You can even practice telling short stories from your day, what happened, what you thought, how you felt. When you speak out loud, you're training your brain to produce English without waiting for someone else to start the conversation. 5. Keep an English phrase bank. This is a small notebook or digital note where you collect useful phrases you hear in real life. Whenever you hear something you like, maybe in a TV show, in a song, or from a friend, write it down. For example, that's a good point. I see what you mean. It's been a while since I review this list daily and try to use at least one phrase in a conversation that day. Over time, these phrases will become part of your natural speaking style. 6. Join short, low-pressure conversations. You don't need to join a debate club to practice speaking. Look for small, easy opportunities. Oicher, say hi to your neighbor in English. Ask a simple question at a shop. Leave a short voice message in English to a friend. The key is frequency, not perfection. The more often you use English in real life, even in small ways, the faster it becomes natural. 7. Record yourself. This can be uncomfortable at first, but it's one of the most powerful ways to improve. Once a day, record yourself speaking English for 1 to 2 minutes. You could talk about your day, describe a picture, or answer a question. Then listen back. You'll notice things you didn't hear while speaking, pronunciation, rhythm, maybe overused words. This feedback is priceless. Over time, you'll hear your own improvement, and that's incredibly motivating. 8. Mix fun with practice. If English practice always feels like work, you won't stick with it. So find ways to make it enjoyable. Watch a comedy show in English. Sing along to your favorite English songs. Play online games where you chat with others in English. The more you enjoy it, the more you'll want to do it and the faster you'll improve. The 30-day consistency challenge. I want to give you a simple challenge that has worked for hundreds of my students. For the next 30 days, listen to English for at least 5 minutes a day. Speak out loud for at least 2 minutes a day. That's it. It doesn't matter if you're tired, busy, or traveling, you can find 7 minutes in your day. If you do this for 30 days straight, you'll notice a huge difference in your confidence and fluency. Here's the most important thing to remember. Daily practice isn't about perfection, it's about building momentum. One missed day, no problem. Just start again the next day. What matters is that you keep coming back. In the next part of this episode, we're going to take all these daily practice ideas and bring them into real-life conversation examples, starting with one of my favorites, a coffee shop conversation. We'll go step by step so you can hear exactly how a natural English conversation sounds and then practice it yourself. Picture this. It's a Saturday morning. You walk into your favorite coffee shop. The smell of fresh espresso fills the air. There's a little bit of music in the background, the sound of milk steaming cups clinking on the counter. This is one of the easiest and most common places to practice real-life English. Why? Because the conversations are short, the topics are simple, and you can predict a lot of the questions before they happen. So today I'm going to walk you through a complete coffee shop conversation from the moment you walk in to the moment you leave with your drink. Step 1, greeting the barista. When you approach the counter, the first thing you'll hear is usually a greeting. They might say, "Hi, how are you today?" "Good morning. What can I get for you?" You can respond in a few simple ways. "Hi, I'm good, thanks. How about you?" "Good morning. I'd like a cappuccino, please." Adding that short, "How about you?" shows friendliness, but if you're in a hurry, it's also fine to just greet and order. Step 2, ordering your drink. Here's a basic structure. Greet. Say what you want. Add details if needed. For example, "I'll have a medium latte, please." "Could I get a large black coffee, no sugar?" "Can I have an iced tea, please?" With less ice. If you're not sure what to get, you can ask for recommendations. What do you recommend? What's your most popular drink? Step 3. Handling follow-up questions. Sometimes the barista will need more details. They might ask, and enkoyer, what size would you like? Would you like that hot or iced? Whole milk or oat milk? If you don't hear them clearly, don't be afraid to say, sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't catch that. Could you say it again? This is a perfect moment to practice listening in a noisy place, which is a real skill in itself. Step 4. Paying and saying thanks. After you order, they'll tell you the price. You pay, and you can add a friendly closer. Oh, wow. Thanks a lot. Thank you, have a good one. If they give you a loyalty card or a receipt, you can just say thanks and take it. Step 5. Picking up your drink. When your drink is ready, the barista might call your name or just place it on the counter. You can say, thanks. Thank you, have a nice day. Simple, friendly, done. Full sample conversation. Here's what the whole thing could sound like. Barista, hi there, how are you today? You? Hi, I'm good, thanks. How about you? Barista, doing well, thanks. What can I get started for you? You? I'll have a medium cappuccino, please. Barista, hot or iced? You? Hot, please. Barista? Any sugar? You? No sugar, thanks. Barista? Great. That'll be $4.50. You? Here you go. Barista? Thanks, your drink will be ready at the end of the counter. You? Perfect, thank you. A few minutes later, barista, cappuccino for Alex, you. That's me, thanks a lot, barista. Have a great day, you. You too. Tips for making this conversation smoother. Know your order before you get to the counter. This avoids awkward pauses. Practice your order out loud before going to the cafe. Listen for common questions. Size hot iced milk options so you can respond quickly. Smile friendliness often matters more than perfect grammar. Turning this into a practice routine, you can rehearse this at home. Stand in your kitchen and imagine it's the cafe counter. Speak your lines out loud. Use the real phrases we just practiced. If you want to make it more realistic, play some cafe background sounds on YouTube while you practice. It will help you get used to listening in a noisy environment. Challenge for you. This week, go to a real coffee shop and order in English. Even if the staff speak your native language, start the conversation in English first. See how far you can take it. You'll be surprised how much confidence this builds. In the next part, we'll move from the cafe to a community event where conversations are longer and you have more chances to connect with people you've never met before. I'll guide you through the whole process so you'll know exactly what to say from the moment you arrive to the moment you leave. Imagine this. You've just arrived at a community event, maybe it's a local festival, a cultural fair, a networking meetup, or even a weekend workshop. You look around and see groups of people chatting, laughing, and enjoying themselves. Now here's the challenge. You don't know anyone here. You want to join the conversation, but you're wondering, how do I start? What if I sound awkward? What if I can't keep it going? Today, I'll walk you step by step through a realistic conversation flow you can use in almost any community event setting, so you can walk away with new connections and a lot more confidence. Step 1. Opening the conversation. The easiest way to break the ice at events is to use the environment around you. Look for something you can comment on: the food, the music, the decorations, the schedule. Examples? Wow, this place is busy. Have you been here before? The food smells amazing. Do you know who's cooking? I love the music they're playing. Do you know the band? The great thing about these openers is that they're not personal. You're simply making an observation that anyone can respond to. Step 2. Finding common ground. Once the other person responds, listen for details you can connect with. If they say, yeah, I've been to this event a few times, you can ask, what's your favorite part of it? Any tips for a first-timer? If they mention food or drinks, you can say, I haven't tried anything yet. What do you recommend? This makes the conversation feel friendly and personal very quickly. Step 3, introducing yourself. When the moment feels right, usually after 1, 2 exchanges, you can introduce yourself. By the way, I'm Alex. I'm Sarah, nice to meet you. Most people will reply with their name, and now the conversation is more personal. Step 4, continuing naturally. You can keep the conversation alive by asking light, open-ended questions. Waichun and Korhas. So what brought you to this event? Do you live nearby? Have you been to other events like this? You don't need deep topics right away. Just keep it relaxed. And remember, share something about yourself too. I live a few blocks away. I've walked past this place so many times, but never came in before. I just moved here a couple of months ago, so I'm still getting to know the community. Step 5, knowing when to move on. At events, it's normal to have shorter conversations and then move on to meet other people. You can end politely by saying, "It was great chatting with you. I'm going to look around a bit more. Nice meeting you. I'm going to grab some food before it's all gone." This way, you leave on good terms and you can always return to the conversation later. Full sample conversation, "Hi, wow, it's really crowded today. Have you been here before?" Stranger, "Yeah, a few times. It's always like this when the weather's nice." You, "Oh, that's good to know. I'm here for the first time actually." Stranger, "Really? Welcome you." "Thanks, by the way, I'm Alex." Stranger, "Nice to meet you, Alex. I'm Jamie." You, "Nice to meet you too, Jamie. So what's the best thing to do here?" Stranger, "Honestly, you have to try the food stalls over there. The dumplings are amazing." You, "Dumplings? I'm sold. I love dumplings." "Where exactly?" Stranger, "Just down that path next to the stage." You, "Got it. Thanks for the tip. Have you tried any of the music performances yet?" Stranger, "Yeah, the band that's about to start is really good." You, "Great, I'll check them out. Anyway, it was great chatting. I'm going to grab some food before the line gets too long." Stranger, "Sure enjoy you." "Thanks, you too." Tips for success at events. Use the environment, it's the easiest icebreaker. Keep it short and friendly. You can always return later. Smile and keep open body language. Stand facing the person, make eye contact, and avoid crossing your arms. Don't worry about perfect grammar. Focus on connection, not perfection. Practice routine at home. You can practice this before the real event. Write down 3 opening lines based on the type of event you're attending. Practice introducing yourself and asking one follow-up question. Role play with a friend or even in front of a mirror. If you practice this flow a few times, you'll walk into the real event ready and confident. In the next part, we're going to a completely different setting, the workplace. Here, conversations can be more formal, and you often talk to the same people every day, so building good communication habits is key. We'll go through a realistic office conversation and show you how to sound natural, professional, and friendly all at the same time. Now let's step into a place where many of you probably spend a lot of time, the workplace. The office can feel very different from a coffee shop or a community event. Here, your conversations are often with the same people every day. And while you still want to be friendly, you also need to be professional. Today, I'll take you through a typical workplace conversation, the kind you might have in the morning when you arrive at the office, plus a few tips on how to communicate clearly and confidently in a professional setting. Step 1, greeting colleagues. When you walk into the office, a simple friendly greeting is always a good start. You might say, "Good morning." "Morning, how's it going?" "Hi, how are you today?" Estar. The key here is tone, make it sound genuine. You don't have to be overly enthusiastic, but avoid sounding like you just rolled out of bed 5 minutes ago. Step 2, small talk before work. Small talk in the office helps build relationships. It can be about the weather, weekend plans, a recent news story, or something happening at work. Examples. "Did you watch the game last night?" Looks like it's going to rain all week. I heard we might have a new project starting soon. These light conversations make the office feel more comfortable and can lead to smoother teamwork later on. Step 3. Discussing work tasks. Of course, you'll also have conversations about actual work. Here's a typical flow. Colleague, hey, do you have the latest report? You, yes, I finished it this morning. I'll email it to you now. Or, colleague, can you help me with this spreadsheet? You, sure, what seems to be the problem? Notice how the answers are polite and cooperative. This is key in professional environments. Step 4. Asking for help politely. Sometimes you'll need help from someone else. In English, softening your request makes it sound polite. Could you help me with this when you have a moment? Would you mind checking this before I send it? Do you have a minute to go over this with me? This tone shows respect for their time, and people are more likely to say yes. Step 5. Ending workplace conversations. Just like in social situations, you may need to end a conversation politely if you have work to do. You can say, all right, I'd better get back to this project. I'll let you get back to work. Let's catch up later. Short, polite, and clear. Full sample conversation. You, morning, Sam. How's it going? Sam, morning. Pretty good, thanks. How about you? You, doing well. Did you see the email about the new client? Sam, yeah, sounds like an exciting project. You, definitely. By the way, do you have a minute to look over this presentation? Sam, sure, let me finish this email and I'll come by your desk. You, perfect, thanks. 10 minutes later. Sam, all right, let's take a look. You, great. I just want to make sure the data is correct before I send it. Sam, everything looks good here. You, awesome, thanks for checking. I'll send it now. Sam, no problem. You, okay, I'll let you get back to your work. See you later. Sam, see you. Tips for success in workplace conversations. Be clear and direct. Time is valuable in the office. Stay polite even when busy tone matters more than you think. Balance small talk and work talk. Too much of one can be unproductive. Too much of the other can feel cold. Use names. Addressing colleagues by name adds warmth and builds rapport. Practice routine at home. To prepare for real workplace conversations, you can practice greetings and small talk with a friend or colleague. Role play asking for help or giving updates. Record yourself to check for clarity and tone. You can even keep a short list of workplace phrases you want to use, like when you have a moment, let's touch base, or I'll follow up on that. In the final part of this episode, we'll put everything together. I'll give you a quick review of the main points, a challenge to help you take action, and of course, your next steps for improving your English listening and speaking skills. We've shared a lot today, from that first moment of saying hello to someone, to knowing how to keep the conversation alive and ending it in a way that feels warm and confident. We've also talked about how to make English part of your everyday life, not as homework, but as a natural habit. And along the way, you've heard real conversations from coffee shops, community events, and even the workplace. The kinds of moments that happen in real life where English becomes more than just words in a book. A quick wrap-up. You learned that listening and speaking work together, one makes the other stronger. You discovered how to start a conversation naturally using simple openers that don't feel forced. You practiced ways to keep the flow going, even if the other person gives short answers. You picked up tips on ending a chat politely so people remember you positively. You explored daily habits that keep your English muscles strong, even if you have no one to practice with. And you stepped into 3 real-life situations, the coffee shop, the community event, and the workplace, so you know exactly what to say the next time you're there. Your next step. A 7-day mini challenge. For the next week, I want you to try this. 1 real conversation a day. It doesn't need to be long. A quick hello to a neighbor or ordering something in English counts. 5 minutes of listen and repeat practice. Pick a short audio listen closely and repeat out loud. Match the rhythm, the tone, and the speed. Collect new phrases. Every day, write down 3 phrases you hear or read in English. Use at least one of them in a real conversation that day. That's it. Small steps repeated every day. By next week, you'll notice you're speaking more easily and understanding more without even thinking about it. Why start now? Here's the thing: you'll never feel ready if you wait for the perfect moment. Confidence doesn't appear first, it comes from doing. Every time you speak, you're building that confidence brick by brick. Every time you listen closely, you're sharpening your ear. And mistakes? They're not proof you're bad at English, they're proof you're using it. That's how fluency is built. Before you go, if this episode gave you something useful, don't just close the app and forget it. Take one of today's tips and try it today, not tomorrow, today. And if you want to keep learning with me, here's how to stay connected. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. Each one is designed to help you speak and listen with more confidence. Like this video, if it helped you, it's a small click for you, but it helps other learners find this content. Comment below and tell me, which conversation example will you practice first, the cafe, the event, or the workplace? Remember, English isn't something you finish learning. It's something you live day by day, moment by moment. So go out there, start a conversation, and enjoy the small wins along the way. I'll be here in the next episode ready with more real-life English you can actually use. Until then, keep listening, keep speaking, and keep making your English part of your life.